Take it away.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I know lunch is probably after this, so I'll make sure I get through it. Yeah, so Sean said, I'm here. Sean and I used to work together. We still work together. He's our energy consultant on I think pretty much every project we've done and continue to do. I'm Chris Start. I'm the president of Danco Communities. We're a development company. I think some people are local, but a lot of people are from out of the area. Is that right? So yeah, just a little bit about us. We're a developer, we're a contractor, we're a property management company. We do senior assisted living. We also have a drug and alcohol treatment facility in Aspen, Colorado. So we kind of do a lot of different things. I'm the president of our development company, and primarily what we do is affordable housing. We have some market rate development, but mostly our focus is affordable housing. So most of this presentation I'm going to talk to you about is really about our affordable housing projects that we do. So we're a contractor as well. We do commercial and residential contracting, mostly Northern California, usually about 500 miles radius from Arcata is our market that we work in. We have 3 companies that we do that with. Our property management company, we primarily manage all of our own properties. I think we have 1,500 units now that we're managing, mostly workforce housing, senior housing, family housing, and supportive housing. Some of the projects that we have are just right here in Arcata that some of you will probably see in the next few days if you walk around town. So Sean calls us the pioneer of net zero energy efficiency and affordable housing.
You're the first. You get to be the pioneer.
Okay, thanks to Sean. We are the pioneers. Some of the projects that we've done, as I mentioned, this project here is called Plaza Point, which is right down the hill across the street from the co-op. This all-electric building. It's the first apartment complex to go 100% net zero in North America, and measured 103% net positive. It was LEED Platinum, National Association Home Builders certification Emerald, and Zero Energy Ready Home. And like I said, this one was just right down the street here if you get a chance to walk Arcata Plaza. Another one is also in Arcata. This was the first tax credit project as well in North America and Europe to provide PV to individual apartments. So this was the virtual net metering. Yeah, the big part of that happened because of Sean. And I never interfaced with, nice to meet you, but I was always working through Sean. I was working with you. So he really brought forth it for me in our company, which he was working with you at the state level. And then this, so there's a couple projects in Arcata we did. This one is in Fortuna. It was all electric, 80% zero net energy, LEED Platinum, Department of Energy, Zero Energy Ready Home. Project in Fortuna. Project in Fort Bragg, Cottages of Cypress, senior housing project. Same thing, all electric. This project looks like we over-generated, 179% net positive. LEED Platinum, Department of Energy certified. I think this project here, a lot of these projects that you see were driven from the financing. We were able to achieve financing by doing net zero, and that is a big part of what kind of put us into this. USDA was offering financing. The last 3 projects that I showed you came from USDA financing, and in order to win that financing, you needed to do net zero basically. They're all LIHTC funding. Yeah, they have USDA, LIHTC. Some of them have home funding from HCD, infill infrastructure, and then Yarrow Village in Fortuna, same stuff. This one actually, we started to go away from USDA funding. They canceled the program essentially. But yet we're still doing zero net energy. And this is the point of my presentation, is that we can make it pencil. In the Lodge at Eureka, this one was a rehab that we just completed about 24 months ago. And this is PV ready, but we still don't have the funding to make it net zero. And primarily because they don't count utility allowance. You can't use the CUAC calculator on a rehab. I know that we're working on this, but if you could, this project would be zero net energy as well. In Astor Place, one in Eureka that we did, also planned, but it does have solar on it, but it's not 100% all electric at this point. And this one's in Arcata, et cetera. So projects under construction, we have project in Gilroy, it's 100% zero net energy. This one's a tax credit project. It's actually bond financing. We've got a homeless housing project in Eureka, zero net energy. Starting construction on the peninsula here in Samoa, down in Rio Del, and then we're working on another one in Fort Bragg. So how do we make it work? You know, to us, it's obvious, but Sean and I did a presentation down in Sacramento, Housing California, about 4 or 5 months ago. And I realized, and the room was full, bigger room than this, I realized that it wasn't obvious to everyone. When I started the presentation, I told Sean, I said, are you sure anybody's gonna be interested? This seems like, this is like obvious stuff. But it turned out in the meeting that everybody was like surprised. So I was surprised myself. So how do we make it work? We use renewable energy and green construction systems to lower the utility allowances. Seems pretty straightforward. If you generate electricity on site, you lower the utility allowances by using solar. You get that extra insulation, energy efficient appliances, passive solar design. You can essentially get the utility allowances down to $5 for whatever the meter fee is. And by being able to utilize the CUAC calculator tool that's offered, we can increase rents. And by increasing the rents, we can increase the permanent debt, leveraging additional financing sources to go into the deal, and then also utilize a 30% tax credit. So I'm just going to give you a couple slides here that sort of go over this. This is like a model project that we did that it's the Eureka Veterans. It's under construction right now in Eureka. It's veterans and homeless housing, 50-unit project, all electric, 100% zero net energy, no gas. And this is just to show you, outline how this works. So right here on this area here, this is the County of Humboldt utility allowance, project housing authority utility allowance. This is what's required when you're doing tax credits financing, if you're not going to do a project specific utility allowance calculator, better known as the CUAC calculator. So here in Humboldt County, 1-bedroom unit, we would have to plug in $99 for utility. And that means that we have to charge $99 less in rent to allow that tenant to pay for this. Same unit, using the CUAC calculator, a 1-bedroom unit would equal $5 by introducing solar, all electric, all the things I mentioned earlier. A 2-bedroom unit would be $11.77.
Amazing tool.
Yeah, sure is. Thanks for inventing it. So the sort of, here's the pro forma on this. And this over here on the right here, kind of don't pay attention to that. This has to do with rental assistance. It's really this column here we're looking at. So by using the Public Housing Authority's utility allowance, this project, these are real numbers, this project would have a annual net rent of $159,000, and by using the CUAC calculator, we have $215,000 in to work with. So here's the two models side by side. So I think it goes further. So here we go. Oh, I go backwards here. Okay. Oh, so the arrow key, got it. Okay, so the for some reason I think it's cut off, but the loan amount. Oh no, it isn't. Okay, here it is. So the net operating income from the project housing or the public housing authority's utility allowance. The net operating income is 111,000, and using the CUAC calculator, it's 162,000. So the underwriting criteria is typically a 1.15 debt coverage ratio, and you can see right here the loan amount. The loan amount that we're able to get, maximizing the underwriting criteria using the housing authority's utility allowance is $1.4 million. And the loan amount that we're able to get using the California utility allowance calculator methodology is $2.1 million. So in essence, the difference is $664,000. So thinking this through, this project specifically, in order to get the solar utility allowance to $5, the cost to produce that PV system is $342,400. You add in a $102,000 30% tax credit, that calcs out to $102,000, and then we have to pay Sean some consulting fees to do the work or whatever. Other consultants. So the net benefit to provide solar is $404,000. So after all this PV has been put on the facility, we're $404,000 ahead by doing this. And this doesn't even include benefits like the previous presentation that was given talked about the cost savings about not using gas lines. I mean, I'm not even talking about any of this. This is just the PV array. Other benefits, what we're finding is obviously we're doing something good for the environment, but the tenants, they would rather live here, even though they're paying for this. I mean, they're paying the additional rent. I think people want to live in a facility that is net zero. They feel better about it. Definitely helps us when we're getting entitlements and through the approval process to stand up and say, hey, we're doing good stuff here. We're doing energy efficiency design. We're going net zero. And then, it remains a great asset after the 15-year compliance period's up. So we're generating power on site. The building's worth more. And yeah, we call this a no-brainer. So that's it. This is my short presentation. Question?
They might be seeing the exact same rent in age after choose with their first.
Yeah.
How do you compare? You have to study that?
No, we have, we really don't have any vacancies. We have 100, 200 person waiting lists for all of our apartments. Affordable housing is a crisis, especially in California to where we're working. And so, I can't tell you the last time we've had a vacancy. Well, we have one property up in Willow Creek that has a little bit of a vacancy. It really would. That's correct.
Less so for market. Less so for market. And more affordable housing just people don't leave.
But he's saying that because it has solar, it's more attractive to like that.
We get feedback. We get feedback from our tenants that say they like living in a net zero.
What's the age demographic that thinks like that though? Consult the baby boomers, right?
I don't know that I have that kind of data.
Well, it's just an age demographic. You cater to more millennials who think like that.
Yeah, I would say that's probably accurate. Yeah.
We can say like the Fort Bragg project is 179% net positive. Those senior citizens get like a couple $100 a year in checks for their frugality. They're very frugal compared to families. They love it. But like the
I can say that.
Yeah, but the family, everyone, you're a family, you struggle in the summertime with the air conditioning bill and getting your kids new clothes for school at the same time. And so it just reduces stress on everybody. It's summertime when the air conditioning bill is high, they have a solar powerhouse. In wintertime, when Christmas comes around, the bills get kind of big for spacing. They don't have big bills, they can still do a nice Christmas.
Well, and to your point, if we're over generating on the Fort Bragg project, we're 179% of net zero. You know, the people are able to use their air conditioning system or use their electricity, and they're getting basically a $5 bill. So I think the mindset of people is, I mean, I know I talked to quite a few people that just say, wow, this is amazing. We only have to pay $5 for utilities. I'm not sure that everyone puts it together that they're actually paying for it by the increased rent, to be honest with you. But in the end of the day, I think people are programmed and used to paying high utility bills. People are used to paying $80 to $100 for the utility, and when they get that bill in the mail that's $5, it's a good feeling.
Well, see, one of the biggest advantages it isn't really just the energy efficiency, it's the stability of their energy bills. I mean, what really hits low-income families is when there's a weather event or something else, and all of a sudden the bill goes up. And now they have to try to figure out how to pay for it. It was not in the budget. If you keep the bills, down at $5 every month, that stability is a lot more important to them than the energy efficiency. Because they're actually paying for the efficiency of the higher rent. So they're paying the same amount as they would have.
And I think the market rate, sorry not to cut you off, I think the market rate guys, I would like to see the market rate developers start to do this more. And I think it's a function of how you tell the story. The CUAC calculator makes it easy for us. I mean, the economics are there. It's legislation that's put in place. We're able to easily follow it. There's a formula in place to do it. Well, the market rate guys can do the same thing. If you're selling your house or you're renting your unit, and you're able to prove to somebody that's going to move in that, look, yes, I'm charging you an additional $90 in rent, and maybe you give them part of the benefit. I'm charging you additional rent, but your utility is going to be this. So we can make the same argument. Well, I'm just happen to be an affordable housing developer, not a market rate developer, but I'd like to see more things happen on the market rate side to help them tell the story so they can start to do this as well.
What's the range?
We've got a question back there, sorry.
I'd like to ask about asset value, because you said that asset value of the property goes up. On the market rate side, obviously that really helps make the case when you have appreciation of the asset. But how do you benefit from an increase in asset value of an affordable housing side? What does that enable you to do? Well,
generally speaking, how multifamily housing is valued is through the cap rates, and it's based on net operating income. So when you're generating solar on site, your net operating income is higher, as I was able to show. Therefore, if you cap the value of that property, it increases the value. So it's a pretty simple way to show it. You're able to generate more income, more net operating income. So I could go out and refinance this property at a different date, bring in a higher loan amount, or you could sell the property for a higher value based on generating higher net operating income. Does that answer that?
Sort of. I just wanted to see if the balance sheet impact allows you to do something as a developer in terms of raising more capital to do bigger projects, or because the NOI capping asset value based on NOI to me is obviously a commercial real estate relic, whereas on the single family residential, it's based on comps that, whatever your neighbor is willing to pay, the sky's the limit kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I'm just trying to understand that if you're a market rate developer, you can turn around and sell that same building for whatever the going rate is in that area. But if you're affordable housing and it has a lien on it or whatever, you can't really capture the full asset value that you're creating in this improvement as a developer. So I'm trying to understand, is there another way you can take that theoretical increase in asset value based on the comps around your building, even though it's affordable and it's on your balance sheet, and go out and raise more capital to do more projects? That's what I'm trying to get at, understanding. But maybe that's not how it works.
Well, we don't really leverage other facilities to raise additional capital to do new buildings. That's not how it works. But the building will be more valuable because it's able to generate higher operating income.
After 15 years, you can.
Well, after the 15 years, if you sell it, after the compliance period is up, if you were to trade the property, yes, you'd get higher proceeds from that. That's true.
What's the market rate? You can borrow.
Yeah.
What would be the market? I mean, I live in LA. So what's the market rate for a one-bedroom apartment here in this area?
A market rate?
Yeah, what's the range?
Probably a new apartment would be 1,000. An arcade, I'd say 1,000.
How much are these?
Well, these are permanent supportive housing, these particular one, but
No, I understand it, but I've done.
these are $337 for one bedroom.
Because you guys kept saying that they're willing to pay more, but they're affordable housing, so I'm just really hung up on that.
Yeah, so if you look here, at this model, the rent that we're able to collect in this case is $337. That factors in this $99 utility allowance. So that equals in this line, this specific line, 19 one-bedroom units, the total annual rent for those units is $54,000. Well, if we're use the CUAC calculator, the annual rent for those one-bedroom apartments is $75,000. So the tenants are paying the additional rent, but what they're getting is they're getting a $5 utility bill versus a $99 utility bill.
Yeah, both models, they're paying $337.
That's the gross rate.
It's either you have to still pay 99 or you have to pay 5.
That's right.
So the affordable housing is maxed at a certain level, it just helps get out the rent.
Yes. Yes, correct. Yeah, these numbers are given to us. We don't make these up. These are part of HUD publishes the rent numbers, and the housing authorities publish the utility allowance locally. They've given us the flexibility to use the utility allowance tool so that we can then decrease the utility amount and therefore collect the additional rent.
Simple way of putting it is that while the tenants are still paying $337, the difference between $99 and $5 goes to the developer instead of to the utility.
And therefore we leverage additional debt, bringing additional resources in to pay for that PV system.
Which means they have a range of investment energy efficiency.
Yes.
And the most important thing is that actually added money to the affordable housing development in essence.
Well, exactly. And then it not only did it pay for the net zero equipment, it also added $400,000 of additional proceeds to help make the deal pencil even further. So that these don't go to the developer. The developer, we're restricted on, we get a fee based on, these are fee-based projects. So that additional $404,000 allowed us to build either, more robust play area or add additional units to the project. It's more subsidy or resources that goes into the project that allows us to provide additional units, essentially.
And the tax credits are competitive, so being able to provide those other things, you have a higher probability of getting it.
Well, that's true as well. Yes, they score better in the competition.
Which, keep in mind, we didn't have good strategies to get affordable housing developed up here because we lacked redevelopment agencies. We had a couple we dedicated, but there wasn't a whole lot of other soft money other than going to the USDA and then additionally getting this benefit in. This actually helps us do affordable housing in an area that's kind of neglected by the state and by most programs, financing. We barely exist in most people's mental maps of where California is, and that shows up in how policy works.
Yeah.
So many of you travel up here far. So hey, can I see Chris?